The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 7. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of real women producing extraordinary results by finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Get your free audiobook at our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Hey friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host, Sheena Yap Chan. And today I have a lovely woman, who I invited over to share her story about her journey to self-confidence. And, I actually saw her and met her on Facebook. The power of the internet is just amazing when you can connect with like-minded women. And we got to chatting, and I really wanted to bring her out and share her story with you. She used to live in Vancouver, and now she's actually living in paradise. She is in Bali. And, who wouldn't want to go to Bali? I mean, that's still one of the places that I want to go to. So I'm just going to introduce her, and, she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself. So her name is Lydia Lee. And Lydia, are you on? How are you doing?
I am. Thanks for having me on, Sheena.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking your time for doing this.
And I will tell you in advance that the office I'm in right now in Bali is right next to a very sacred forest called Monkey Forest. And there are monkeys. So sometimes they climb to the roof. So you might hear them. So just wanted to give you fair warning.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Can you just tell the listeners, what do you currently do right now?
So as you mentioned, I'm a Canadian, used to be in Vancouver, and I now run my mobile business in Bali in Indonesia. And I have a company called Screw The Cubicle, which is exactly as said. It's really helping, people that are still in a 9-to-5 job or in a traditional corporate job to what I do is I help them really discover the most natural and strongest skills and talents that they have and help them create a mobile business that will allow them to have more freedom in their lives. That's kind of in a nutshell of what I do. So I do that via one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching as well. And of course, I run these retreats and live experiences in Bali, which is, as you mentioned, paradise.
Well, I have some friends right now who are actually staying there for like a month as well. So, I mean, I've seen the pictures and I'm just like, oh my God, I have to go there.
You should warn them. You should warn them that 30 days can easily turn into 2 years, like mine. I was also here for 30 days to do some writing because I was writing this course, and I literally kept renewing my visa, and literally in the blink of an eye, it's 2 years later.
Okay, I'll give them that fair warning. So, I just have some questions for you today, Lydia. So, the first one is, what's your favorite self-confidence quote?
Wow, God, I have so many. But one of them would probably be, of course, this, this guy, Napoleon Hill. And he says kind of a quote that says something like, if you can't do great things, do small things in a great way. And what that really reminds me of is that I think a lot of the times we always struggle to find confidence or find success unless it is going to be kind of this like huge story that we made up in our heads. It's kind of like, unless I make 100,000 or unless I, am on the stage of Oprah or something, then I can't celebrate, like we kind of overreach to that point where we can't, in a way, enjoy the journey. So this quote kind of helps me remember that actually everything that is happening at this moment in time is a process, but it is also that I can still show up in a great way by doing these bite-sized things in my life or bite-sized action that allows me to still be gaining success, but it doesn't have to be this kind of full-blown effort. It could be in the smallest things that I do, as long as I do it really well and commit to it and own it. That to me is a great thing.
Awesome. I believe in that too, like just celebrating the small success.
Yeah, we have to celebrate the small wins because, at the end of the day, we look for success, in the simplest form is to make us feel good, right? To bring joy to our lives, to have a feeling of achievement, which is at the end of the day, on the most simplest form is feeling good. So if that's what it takes, like we believe that feeling good takes all this massive success. Well, I think we have to reframe that actually, that journey to get there, maybe it's not about that destination. It's about all the little pieces that we uncover along the way that we can celebrate and that we have permission to celebrate it. And then it kind of makes the ride a little bit sweeter. Right? It makes it a little bit more tangible. It's more digestible, and we give ourselves more pats on the back and celebrate that so that we can have more of it, rather than hold out on ourselves until whatever this destination that we've made up in our head was supposed to be. So I'm a high achiever. I come from an Asian background. My mom's always taught me to overachieve for things, and I get the over perfectionist issue. So I struggle with that a lot. I sometimes don't give myself that time and space to celebrate and have those wins. So this quote really helps me remember that and kind of remember that the journey itself, the process of the journey itself is meant to be celebrated.
That's awesome. So where were you originally from then? You said you come from an Asian background.
I was born in Malaysia, in Penang. I don't know if you know where Penang is. It's really has a really good food. It's actually one of the best. I guess I'm being a little bit, I say because it's my hometown, but it is known to have the best food in Malaysia. But that's where I was born. And I was brought up there till I was about 8 years old, and then I moved to Vancouver, Canada, where I stayed most of my life. But yes, I was born in Malaysia.
So in your own words, what is your definition of self-confidence?
I would say from what I've experienced so far in life and what I think I know for sure is self-confidence really is such a personal relationship with self. Like when that personal relationship is strengthened and you're sure and you almost are in that position of understanding yourself so clearly that it doesn't matter and you're not triggered by what others expect of you or what others may even verbally say that you should be. And that self-confidence for me is not about other people viewing you being perfect or other people viewing you being the best, but you yourself being able to accept that this is the best for you at this very moment and make decisions for yourself based on truly your own values and truly your desires rather than have it influenced by other external factors around you. That to me is true self-confidence.
I like that. Especially, you're from an Asian family. I'm from an Asian family. We're always so prone to making decisions based on other people versus ourselves. Kind of like, I don't know if my dad will be okay with this, or I don't know if my parents will be okay with this. So we have to learn how to make our own decisions and just trust ourselves in the process.
Yeah, and it's not even just Asian parents. I mean, anyone that really is raised in a family that are conditioned to think that everything that they do, they almost have to have permission for, right? They're not. Some people just aren't raised in families that have that, in a way, emotional intelligence to have parents because they don't know any better, right? To kind of encourage self-expression and encourage that your journey is yours and it's okay if I don't agree with it, But yeah, for sure, Asian parents are very specific mentality too. But it's not their fault either. It's how they're raised, And I think that when it is hard for anyone to really be only seeking permission from themselves because we do rely on other people to validate us. And I think that's when we can get into a lot of misunderstanding with our life because we end up living our lives for other people and then getting validated and people go, yeah, awesome, you did this for me, but then we still feel empty. So I think at the end of the day, bypass that and just really check in with yourself as to, is this really my value or am I still living an old value which has been instilled upon me by a parent? Am I really trying to please myself and my desires rather than, the rest of the world? So it is purely such a bond that we have to form with our own, higher self.
That's awesome. I really like that. So, what was your life before your self-discovery to finding your self-confidence? What was your life like before?
Well, I would really say that my life, before, I launched, Screw the Cubicle isn't my first business. I launched my first entrepreneurship venture about, 4.5 years ago. And it was kind of a transition business that I had, which was successful, but wasn't all of it for me. And before I launched my first business, I was in corporate for, 10 to 15 years. I climbed the corporate ladder, climbed it so high that the view, once I got up there, the view wasn't really what I was expecting. I was disillusioned by the idea and concept of what success really meant because when I got it, I still didn't feel better about myself. So I would say that life for me in the corporate world was really not mine. It wasn't really a life that I really wanted. I had everything that looked well. My mother would have been proud, a picket fence home, a car, a mortgage, savings, a 6-figure job. It's what you strive for, I think, as a human being, especially what we've been taught. And so when I had all that and yet I wasn't happy, it really made me think about, holy shit, I don't really know what makes me happy. Because my identity of who I was as Lydia was attached to these jobs, to this status that I've built for myself in the world, but it really wasn't me. So I would say that my self-confidence then was really, I didn't know myself, so I was kind of living to please other people. I was like a notorious people pleaser. And sometimes still am. Yeah, so that was kind of my life before. I figured out kind of what I wanted.
Yeah, I can relate to your story because when I told my parents that I didn't want to work anymore, you know, I sold my condo and everything, and they're like, I don't understand why you would do that. You know, you were successful with what you were doing. And to me, the same, you know, it wasn't my definition of success. You know, I've always wanted to do something more and something bigger and, you know, something that can impact the world. And sometimes, you know, with parents or friends or, you know, just your inner circle, sometimes they don't understand what you're doing. So this is why, I love seeing women who just go out there and do it regardless of what other people will say to them. And, you know, regardless of all the factors that go around us, because I know, you know, people might think, you're crazy. Why would you do that? You left a 6-figure job. Are you insane? Why would you do that? Right. And
actually, sometimes you feel a sense of guilt because at the time when I quit, the economy wasn't doing very well in Canada. So I did get a lot of guilt and kind of feeling of shame because sometimes some of my friends were laid off. You know, they weren't even making money, and here I am in a job that I should quote unquote be grateful for and kind of, you know, throwing it out the window. So I did feel an immense sense of guilt and an immense sense of loneliness, actually, because there was nobody else like me around my life. And then I thought, you know, something maybe was wrong with me, that maybe, you know, I should be happy, but for some reason I'm not. So I must be the problem. And it's very natural for people to feel that way. And thank God, you know, God bless the internet, because of the internet, I think I was able to be influenced by other women entrepreneurs and other visionaries of people that have led a life like me, you know, did the same thing, made a lot of money in corporate, and yet was completely dissatisfied and unfulfilled, and also carved out, you know, their path. And that led me to go, well, if it can work for them, it can also work for me. So it's almost this implantation of evidence that allowed me to see what was going on using the internet, that other people just like me, not smarter than me, not more educated than me, have made it work, and how can I learn from them? And that's kind of the cool thing you're doing, Sheena, with your podcast of, you know, featuring other women who have just kind of went, I don't care, and I just did it. You know, it will absolutely, someone else listening and going, can I really do this? Will relate to one of the women, you know, that you've ever interviewed, and that could in itself change the ripple effect of, you know, the rest of their reality.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. I really want to empower women to, you know, show them what's possible. Like, show them if all you need is one person to prove something. And that's all the proof you need. That's what I believe. I just need one person to show me to do it and that it works, and that's it. I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. So
absolutely.
So what was the turning point in your life or your aha moment that, you know, made you believe you had the confidence to be in business and just start your own business and just go with it regardless of what the situation was? Doesn't matter if there was a recession or not. I mean, what point in your life did that happen to you?
Well, I would say there's kind of two major events that happened in my entrepreneurship life so far. The first moment of aha, where I felt like really, truly, I was creating a business based on my own terms, was actually my second business, which of course is Screw The Cubicle. The Screw The Cubicle was born from really scratching my own itch back then. It started off as a blog, you know. I didn't look at it into making money at that point because I still had my first business, which was I was acting as an agency for international education, which was my old career, and it felt just like a transition business. Now, it made me some money, it got me out of the cubicle, and I'm very thankful for it, but it still wasn't me. Like, it wasn't really encompassing all the amazing natural skills that I enjoyed, actually, but I wasn't utilizing them as much. So there's this huge difference of, I think, what you can do and versus what you want to do, because there's a lot of things that we can do, but it doesn't mean that we have to be stuck doing those things till the rest of our days, you know. And I never realized that, you know. So that aha moment came for me was when I decided to give focus and intent to Screw The Cubicle and ran two businesses at the same time until Screw The Cubicle took off and became, you know, not where it is today, but, you know, gave me some traction to prove to myself that actually when I followed my heart, when I followed doing things that felt easy, doing things that felt like it was in my zone of genius, that it will pay off. You know, I was so used to thinking the old formula that if I was going to be successful, I have to push really hard, right? No pain, no gain, right? Yeah. So unless it was painful or felt difficult, I almost felt like it wasn't worth it. I know it sounds really dumb, but that was really how I felt. So when Screw The Cubicle, the blog, I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this so much. You know, would people pay me for this? Like, it seems too easy. Oh, and that was the first aha moment I had was like, maybe the things I'm meant to be doing should feel easy. Maybe it shouldn't feel so hard. So, now, and then I pursued it. I gave it that intention and pursued it. And then about 4 months after I launched the blog, I gave up my first business and went into Screw the Cubicle full time. And that was, really that moment where I realized, wow, I went with a gut. I went with instinct. I didn't actually do a lot of research. I didn't actually validate this idea too much as I would have today. But because I followed my heart, maybe people saw the enthusiasm. Maybe people felt that I was really meant to do this kind of work and were just drawn to me without me trying in a way. And that really set the tone for me to start making decisions like that, rather than always just from a strategic and logical place, but making sure that it merged with something else that's very important, which is what my heart tells me, which emotion it triggers upon me when I think of something, and to merge it with logic, But I think the feeling and motion comes first. It's the first trigger. And then you can always use the mind to create logical steps to make it happen. So that was the first aha moment. And I guess the second one where you said, hey, no matter if it's a recession, no matter if you're about to go broke or something, you would still pursue this path. Well, I've been in the hole in my 5-year journey in like a minus zone for my income, probably about 3 times. And each time I thought I would go back and get a job. And I never did. And I always figured out a way out. So that was the second aha moment for me, was that the cost of going back, when I think about going back to a job and living that life I had before for other people, was so painful. What a feeling of pain, that it fueled me to first of all figure out new ways to do this, but also I knew that there's an kind of an innate trust in myself that whatever it took, I knew I would survive, based on just this desire to never want to go back into that life again. That was how strong it was for me. So the third time I went into the hole, it actually didn't feel that bad at all. I felt like I knew right away in 3 days I would get out of it. So I think it changes every time, your risk tolerance, once you go through something like that.
I really like that because, a lot of people think when you fail, it's the end of the world.
Yeah, they pull out too quickly, right?
Yeah. And, you've been in the hole 3 times.
Oh, yeah. Like I've been in minus like 3,000 on my checking account and I had no money.
Yeah. And then most people would find that as like, I'm a failure. I'm done. My life is over. But you're like,
for sure.
How can I bring myself back up again? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, Sheena. I had a little cry. Like I had a moment of like, holy shit, I'm going to have to go back to work. Everyone's going to think I'm a failure. I'll be a laughing stock and blah, blah, blah. I mean, all of those stories come into play. And then the next day I basically went for a walk and I just went, is this really the worst thing that's ever happened to me? Like really on a like, let's be neutral for a minute. Like of all the people in the world right now, like that includes people starving in Africa. Am I really in such a tight bind that I can't get my head out of it? Someone of me who has an education and experience, can I really fold over right now when there's all these other people like, trying to get fresh water just to live? You're trying to complain about this minus $3,000, like just get 3 more clients and you're done, like, so I had to really coach myself out of it to stop feeling sorry for myself, because when I'm in that mode of negativity, I can't think of ideas. I can't be creative. So I really figured out actually my key now to finding out a way out about any bind that I'm in is never about the idea itself, or it's never about the logic itself. It's just really focusing on making myself feel good. And once I do that, my brain kind of does whatever it needs to do to figure it out. But my job is to keep myself feeling as positive as I can.
Yeah, and I truly believe being positive is something that we all need to go through, because you can't be living a positive life when you have such a negative mind. It just doesn't work that way. It just,
you won't see anything. You won't see anything positive in your eyes either.
Yeah, and it just becomes really toxic when you get in that negative mindset. So self-development every single day is so important, because it just trains your brain to prove these things work. It will work for you. You will get out of that bind. So
yeah. And if affirmations like that don't work, because sometimes I'm like that, where I'm like, oh my God, am I just lying to myself? Am I just saying these things just to make myself feel better? So what I find sometimes works with, on top of affirmations, because languaging is important, what we hear and how we talk to ourselves is very important. But what has helped me too is also to start finding evidence that I can actually see to help me solidify that I'm not really in trouble. So maybe I talk to a friend, who I know have suffered through something similar, and get their advice and fill in the gaps for myself. Or maybe I, ask for support, ask for someone to help me and not feel like I'm so alone. So I have to constantly be in charge of feeding new evidence to my brain so it can come up with a new belief. And that was a huge reminder for me to seek out evidence, seek out, if I think that I want to be successful, if I think that I want to, get out of this hole or whatever it is that I'm going through, I have to figure out a way to allow my eyes to see something that could be a possibility. And sometimes it's not about me, it's about looking for that help externally. Talking to someone who's been in the hole before and going, how did you survive that? Could you have any ideas for me? Like, so there's so much stuff we could do about it rather than just sit there and complain,
Yeah, and like throw the pity party.
I know, so easy to do that. The blame game is so easy, but it's harder to look at ourselves and go, maybe I did this. Maybe I had to go through this, or maybe, hey, this is a huge opportunity for me to go, what went wrong and how can I do this better, right? Yeah. There's still insight. I think in every breakdown, there's a breakthrough.
For sure.
If you choose to see it that way. Because I think both ways can be happening. You could have a breakthrough or you could have a breakdown. Either one works. So you get to pick.
Yeah, and it takes
you get that choice.
And I think it takes the same amount of energy to do either or. So
oh god, yeah.
You might as well just do the positive, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your life like right now? Right now you have this thriving business. You live in Bali. Like what else is your life like right now?
Well, I love traveling. The whole point for me to help people kind of build mobile businesses was because building mine, really changed my life. The ability to have my office in a laptop and have a backpack where I can travel to anywhere with internet connection and do my work and never meet any of my clients, but still be able to coach them from here, is a gift that I never imagined that I could possibly have, even 6 years ago. I never thought mobile living and being a kind of this digital nomad was meant for people like me, because I didn't have any programming skills or, like what we think digital nomads have to have, like you're a web designer or some sort of like tech skill, right? And I'm a horrible tech person. So I never knew that this kind of lifestyle I could do that, So my life really is, I'm so thankful and grateful for this opportunity for me to learn these new skills and of course for me to teach it as well. And also know that my expenses, like one of the great things about living abroad is that your money goes a lot further, right? Like my cost of living in Bali is 3 times less than it was in Vancouver. And my environment is absolutely causes me to thrive, not just because of the cheap living, but because of the people I'm being surrounded with. I think environment and support and your tribe is hugely important. It totally influences what you believe you're capable to do. It influences what you can see as opportunities and possibilities because they're doing it. And when there's so many people around you that are living life like you or seeking that path just like you, it's so much easier to collaborate. So much easier to tell them about what you're experiencing. So being here has really changed my life to be a lot more aware of myself and a lot more aware of what I want, because there's less noise, I find, than when I was living in Vancouver. And of course, anything I learn, I always love to share. So, the life has been great for me. I've been very lucky to have people come here to Bali to experience what it's like here and help support my work by paying me to help teach them that. And I enjoy it so much. Honestly, I never knew I would be paid to do something that I would have so much fun with, which is obviously the sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just doing something you're passionate about, and then being a go-giver, and then you receive it back, through money or through living the life that you want. I mean, it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah, and I think, Sheena, like the moment I made a promise to myself to never do, well, I guess never say never, because sometimes you may have to, but I mean, to try as hard as possible, like the promise I had for myself was like, when I sense that there's a type of work or anything that I could do in my business that didn't feel like me, like it wasn't like, really I wanted to do it, I would always say no to it. And doing that, making that promise to myself and saying yes to myself by saying no to things that don't matter has made my work so much more enjoyable. So it really, when people say that maybe you can find a career where play and work can be seamless, I do truly feel that can happen for people. But it is a choice you have to make. There is a moment of decision you have to make sometimes about saying no to dangling carrots. Saying no to low-hanging fruit that may seem like money or a great opportunity, but isn't really who you are, And I think when we commit to that, we can then start to really have true freedom of expression in our work and choose only the way we want to work that gives value, but in our way. And then we really can find a lot more, that, as you said, that thing back, right? So you give service to others, but you receive it back as well from the fulfillment and satisfaction of that work.
Yes. And, I'm so glad you were able to come out and take your time to do this interview. I mean, I had like some breakthroughs on my own, just you sharing your story. And, to the women who are listening to this, what's the one tip you would give to them in their own journey, finding their own self-confidence? Like what kind of advice would you want to give to the listener?
Well, definitely kind of a lead into what I just kind of finished mentioning, which is stick to your guns about things that are in your genius zone. Don't try to be like everybody else. And it's so easy because in the internet these days, and I think that's how you found me through an entrepreneurship Facebook group we're both a part of, right? And it's so easy to go through like this whole business pornography bullshit of looking at other people's business and going, oh my God, she's doing podcasting. Oh, maybe I should do podcasting. Or, this person's doing video. Maybe I should do that. And they lose that sense of self again. That's not what entrepreneurship is about. Yes, there's strategy out there. Yes, there's all these amazing things that Marie Forleo does and, Danielle Laporte does that are amazing. But are those things really for you? It works for them because they're being themselves. So what is that? I would love for women to stick to their guns and commit to a promise to only focus on the type of work they really enjoy doing, the self-expression that they really are naturally going to be authentically expressing, and not to take on anything that's kind of the new trend or, seeing other people doing it just for the sake of that. Like really feel like, hey, I could, this seems easy for me. Those are the things that I really hope that they would focus on, because when you focus on those things, that what I call that zone of genius, then the self-confidence has to come. Because you can do that shit with your eyes closed. So of course your self-confidence will always be there because you're capable of doing it. And also you're doing it in your most natural way. You're not trying to be somebody else. I think self-confidence issues come about when you're trying to be somebody else. So that would be kind of my core advice to women listening.
Just be yourself, just do what feels right. And, it can be easy, right? And, some people might have this misconception about easy. You know what I mean? Like easy, I don't know if it's the same definition that you have, but it's the flow.
It feels in flow. Yeah.
The flow of doing things is a lot easier because you enjoy it more and you have this sense of purpose in your life. So you're willing to wake up and do the work. You're willing to wake up and push through the obstacles, right? I mean, even starting this podcast, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I had a big vision. I knew that I just wanted to help women out there live the life that they want. And if it can be through sharing stories, showing them proof that anything is possible, that makes my day.
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't mind putting in that time. It doesn't feel, the time's going to pass anyway. There's 24 hours in a day. The time's going to pass anyway. And if you're filling your time with things you love, and maybe I can rephrase, instead of easy, maybe what I can say is feels at ease, right? So it's not easy like, oh, this is so boring, easy, because we want to be challenged too. But it feels at ease as in you're drawn to do it. And you like the challenge, or you like what the result is, or you like the mission or the why behind it. And I think that feel is something that money can't buy. We try to make that kind of money to buy us that sense of flow and peace, actually. But we can actually have it still without money. We can enjoy it in the process of how we are being in our lives, whether it's personally or professionally. But I absolutely love that feeling of flow. I think you put it really well there.
Oh, thank you. To the listeners out there, they're probably wondering, well, how can I connect with Lydia? I want to know more about the Screw the Cubicle, what she's all about, and what kind of services she offers. Like, is there a website that we can check out?
Yeah, so they can go to screwthecubicle.com, and in the homepage itself, actually, just as I just finished talking about the Genius Zone, they can take a free course, actually. It's a really cool workbook and audio that they can download for free if they subscribe on the website. It's called What the F Am I Meant to Do with My Life? And it really helps them own in and identify the key pieces of their Genius Zone. So, which is the Genius Zone being their skills, how they connect and offer value, and what problems could they potentially solve in the world. And knowing those three pieces of their Genius Zone could be very helpful for people who are still in the 9 to 5 or figuring out what business to create that would get them out of the 9 to 5. to lead them to an idea from this genius zone. So that's absolutely free on the website. And then you could also join if you want to have a chat with me or kind of be more in contact with me on a daily basis. I have a free Facebook group that is called The Unconventionalists. So if you type in The Unconventionalists on Facebook, you will find me. And it's a private group and it is free to join as well. And they can browse my website for the different services that they might be interested to talk to me about. And all of it has to do with either helping people craft up an idea that's meant for them based on their skills, and also obviously helping them launch that business idea to the world and create their first offering or their first product. So this is very much for beginners. It's very much for people who've possibly never owned a business before, but know very much in their hearts that they're meant for bigger things. And I really help them with that journey as well. And they can book a free discovery call with me on the website.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So to the listeners out there, friends, if you've been wanting to do something all your life and you just don't know how to bring it out, or you're not sure what your strengths are, connect with Lydia, get that free call. Let her figure out what your strengths are so you can have your first product or your first service or your first business that could thrive. So, if you want to get the info from Lydia and her links, you can also head over to thetowofselfconfidence.com and just search for Lydia Lee. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Lydia for, taking the time to share her journey and her story with us. I really love your story. I really love that, you failed like 3 times, but you just got back up. And that's the most important when it comes to failure. It's all about just getting back up and just keep going. Just keep going until you reach that end zone, or you just reach that destination. And really, success or entrepreneurship, there's no real destination, right? You just keep going. Keep going, especially when you have a big purpose like yours.
Yeah, and definitely, Sheena, I failed more than 3 times. That was just the more financial failures. But I failed way more than that. But, in every failure, I've learned something new. And I think that's what has grew me as a person, too. And you're right. Like, honestly, it takes more energy to be doing something you hate rather than actually be persevering towards something that you love. Both, as you said before, both routes take the same amount of energy. If anything, I think it takes more energy to be trucking through something you absolutely hate.
I agree. If it's something you don't like, you just does take more energy because you have to put more.
It drains you.
Yeah, you put more effort. You come home drained and just you don't feel like doing anything else. So
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you again. And to friends, just be on the lookout for a brand new episode of another woman's amazing story of her inner journey to self-confidence. And once again, I thank Lydia for taking the time to share her story and share her advice to you on self-confidence. And be on the lookout for the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us at the Tao of Self-Confidence. Head over to thetowofselfconfidence.com for full recaps of every show, our amazing blog articles and resources, and just plain fun. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits, so start today.